The world is structured paradoxically. While 99% of people spill their lives across social media, 1% remain silent. And it is precisely they who rule this world. Machiavelli understood this. True power is not found in beautiful speeches, but in correctly timed pauses. In an era obsessed with endless discussion, total openness, and the exhibition of every step, we have lost our understanding of the true power of strategic silence. While some loudly announce their plans, lay all their cards on the table, and rush to share every idea, the wise player chooses silence and turns it into an advantage. Niccolò Machiavelli, the Florentine strategist and author of The Prince, knew that sometimes what matters most is not what is said, but what is withheld. His works teach not only action, but the art of omission. He understood that people believe appearances, and that speech merely creates illusion. Silence preserves essence. Today, when everyone strives to speak, those who master the discipline of silence gain undeniable advantage. They do not waste energy on empty words. They act while others argue. They win while competitors only talk about winning. Machiavelli lived in a world where an unnecessary word could cost one's life. But are the consequences of careless openness today any less destructive? No, we are no longer executed for speech. But every careless word weakens position, reveals vulnerabilities, and hands weapons to your enemies. People believe their eyes, not their ears, Machiavelli wrote. They see what you show them, but only a few sense the truth. Those who speak incessantly give the world reason to judge them. Those who remain silent remain unpredictable, and therefore invulnerable. Every spoken word is a voluntary weakness that silence does not possess. The crowd believes appearances. The wise believe silence. That is how a modern translation of Machiavelli's advice might sound. In an age of information overload, real power belongs to those who know how not to speak. A leader who explains every decision, justifies every step, and exposes every thought becomes ordinary. And the ordinary can never command the same respect as the exceptional. Consider how this manifests today. A colleague who speaks at every meeting and voices opinions on every issue, even outside their competence, gradually loses influence. A friend who posts every detail of their personal life on social media becomes not interesting, but predictable. A negotiator who fills awkward pauses with concessions loses leverage. A leader who responds to every criticism legitimizes critics while simultaneously undermining their own authority. Machiavelli would see in modern obsession with total transparency and continuous communication not sincerity, but a strategic error, a voluntary surrender of power, where information is given away without receiving equal value in return. This is a finely calibrated communicative tactic, taking different forms depending on the objective. Understanding these dimensions of silence reveals its practical value. The first aspect: silence as a tool for gathering intelligence. The wise act immediately as the foolish act only after defeat. As Machiavelli noted, the fool rushes to state his position without troubling himself to study the intentions of others. The rational individual consciously maintains a pause, allowing opponents to reveal their plans, motives, and weaknesses before choosing a response. This creates information asymmetry. While others generously share data, you accumulate knowledge without exposing your own cards. In negotiations, this manifests as an iron rule. The one who breaks the silence first loses. In personal relationships, this explains why the attentive listener always keeps their finger on the pulse, while the talker remains ignorant. In competition, loud strategic announcements more often lead to failure than to triumph. The second aspect: silence as a multiplier of power. Machiavelli taught that power rests on perception, and perception can be strengthened through measured restraint. The ruler must combine the nature of the lion and the cunning of the fox, for the lion is helpless against traps, and the fox against wolves. The key art, he argued, is knowing when speech weakens authority and when silence elevates it. Silence strengthens power because people instinctively fill information gaps with assumptions, often in favor of the silent party. When a leader speaks selectively, addressing only essential matters, their words carry greater weight. When someone responds to criticism only when truly necessary, rather than defending every accusation, they project confidence, not insecurity. This explains why the most influential figures in any field usually speak less, but with greater precision, than those below them. An anxious junior manager overexplains. A CEO delivers brief, decisive statements. An insecure person explains everything. A protected person declares without justification. A worried leader reacts to every provocation. A confident leader engages selectively, only when strategically necessary. The third form. Ambiguity sustained through silence. Since it is difficult to unite them, it is safer to be feared than loved, when one of the two must be lacking. This observation applies not only to fear and love, but to all situations where preserving multiple interpretations serves strategic interests. Ambiguity allows others to project their own hopes, fears, and interpretations onto your position. By refusing to clarify prematurely, you can appeal simultaneously to different groups with conflicting expectations. You preserve freedom of action without binding yourself to a single interpretation. You maintain plausible deniability without explicitly endorsing any one understanding. Politicians master this through statements vague enough that each audience hears what it wants to hear. Effective negotiators use it by avoiding rigid positions that prematurely narrow agreements. Leaders apply it by articulating vision without unnecessarily restricting implementation details. In each case, strategic silence is not deception. It is recognition that premature clarity often undermines goals rather than advances them. As Machiavelli noted, politics exists outside morality. True effectiveness requires strategic flexibility, which excessive openness inevitably erodes. Beyond tactical advantage, silence possesses unique psychological force, something words can never achieve. The human mind cannot tolerate emptiness. It instinctively fills it, not with facts, but with its own anxieties and assumptions. When you consciously remain silent at a critical moment, your opponent begins projecting their fears and weaknesses, revealing themselves while your intentions remain concealed. People are so simple and so ruled by immediate needs that the deceiver will always find someone willing to be deceived, Machiavelli wrote. Strategic pauses intensify this effect without requiring direct deception. Silence as pressure lies at the core of experienced interrogation methods. Investigators use not questions, but silence, to extract confessions. The discomfort of prolonged pauses forces people to speak, often revealing far more than under direct questioning. The same mechanism operates in negotiations. The side capable of enduring silence usually secures better terms, while the nervous talker concedes first. In communication, power often belongs not to the one who speaks more, but to the one who speaks less. Those who rush to speak first or fill pauses with words unwittingly adopt the role of the supplicant. They seek approval, attention, validation. By contrast, those who speak sparingly or only after others reveal positions are perceived as arbiters, not seekers. Machiavelli saw here a reflection of his principle. It is better to inspire fear than to seek love. The silent participant may be disliked, but restraint generates respect unattainable through verbosity. This explains why candidates who ask thoughtful questions often outperform those who speak excessively about themselves. The same applies to boardrooms and conflicts. Silence overturns hierarchy, replacing the model of seeking approval through speech with earning respect through restraint. Unspoken power amplifies perceived strength. As Machiavelli noted, people judge more by appearances than by substance. What is left unrevealed always appears greater and more dangerous than what is fully exposed. Silence creates an aura of mystery, prompting others to speculate, attribute hidden motives, and overestimate your capabilities. Power is built not only on actions, but on expectations. Silence expertly manages those expectations. Those who reveal everything become predictable and lose influence. Those who ration information preserve mystique, which amplifies perceived authority. This is critical in leadership. A leader who explains every decision destroys the myth of exceptionality. One who shares only conclusions, concealing the process, maintains authority through omission. This is not manipulation, but recognition of a simple truth. Power partly depends on followers believing their leader's abilities exceed their own. Modern culture worships authenticity. Be yourself, speak truth, share everything. But these ideals contradict the principles of influence Machiavelli described. A promise is a necessity of the past, its violation a necessity of the present, he wrote. Blind loyalty to prior statements often harms present interests. Modern fetishization of transparency is exactly such voluntary limitation, sacrificing future freedom for momentary sincerity. This is not advocacy of dishonesty, but of information management. Share what serves your objectives. Withhold what undermines them. His advice never to use force when cunning suffices can be rephrased today as, never use openness where strategic silence achieves more. The art of power is the balance between necessary openness and productive restraint. The dangers of excessive transparency appear in all areas of life. Professionally, premature presentations, unfinished ideas voiced too early, negotiation positions exposed prematurely. Personally, impulsive confessions, excessive emotional disclosure, discussing plans not yet finalized. Machiavelli would see here not honesty, but tactical error, loss of influence without meaningful gain. The overly open become transparent. Predictable. Easy to manipulate. Ordinary. These traits do not build authority, they erode it. The Machiavellian communicator operates differently. Speaks not to express self, but to achieve objectives. Exercises restraint not from fear, but to preserve maneuvering space. Remains silent not from weakness, but from strategic discipline. Practicing conscious silence. The key is not absolute silence, but discipline. Filter speech. Say only what advances goals. Weigh whether words offer more benefit than restraint. Transform silence into influence. Strategic communication is the art of balancing necessary openness with productive omission. As Machiavelli observed, a wise ruler cannot and should not keep his word when it harms his interests. In modern terms, an effective communicator reveals no more than the situation demands. Before stating your position, create information advantage. Study others first. Ask questions instead of declarations. Analyze not only what is said, but what is left unsaid. The lion ignores traps. The fox cannot fight wolves. A ruler must combine both. The fox's art begins with silent information gathering and minimal self-disclosure. This is especially effective in negotiations, leadership, and competitive environments. The power of controlled uncertainty. Develop strategic flexibility in phrasing. Not deliberate obscurity, but preserving maneuverability through measured specificity. A wise ruler is never rash and never reveals insecurity, Machiavelli wrote. This deliberate patience preserves freedom to adapt. In leadership, this means clear goals with flexible methods, firm principles with adaptive tactics. Those who retain the right to refine positions gain more influence than those who declare finality too early. Silence here is not weakness, it is control. In relationships, shared values with flexible execution. In competition, concealed strategies until others reveal theirs. Finally, cultivate the habit of perceiving silence as strength, not weakness. Most people fear pauses and rush to fill them, revealing too much or conceding unnecessarily. Mastering calm pauses yields decisive advantage. This means holding silence after stating your position. Listening fully in conflict. Deciding without excessive explanation. Machiavelli never advocated absolute silence. He advocated speaking only when words outperform silence. True masters create contrast between carefully chosen speech and deliberate omission. The crowd judges appearances. This remains true. Controlled information shapes perception. Excessive openness weakens influence. The rule is simple. Every word must serve your objective, not merely fill silence. The world is drowning in noise. In an era where everyone speaks, true power belongs to those who know when not to. Their words weigh more because they are rare. Their positions intrigue because they are revealed selectively. This discipline is rare, and therefore powerful. Listen first. Restrain yourself. Know when silence serves better than speech. While some shout victory, others simply win. Perhaps that is why Machiavelli is so often misunderstood. His name became synonymous with cynicism, yet his work reveals deep psychological laws of power. True influence does not always require force or deception. Sometimes it requires nothing more than silence, at the right moment. In our age of noise, his strategy offers a paradoxical path to power. Speak less. Observe more. Dose information. Let results speak. Those who master this stop being players in the game. They become its architects. If you watched until the end, you are no longer just a spectator. Welcome to the 1%.